Just drying the dog. Nothing else happening here. Nothing else happening here. You guys want to talk about Trump? She's a toy Australian Shepherd. Sit. Stay. All right, is that the cutest thing you've seen today or what? Hey, stay. Sit. Stickers. Sit. Sit. Good girl. She knows you're watching. How is she shedding? Not too badly. So, what else is going on besides everyone in the world accusing Trump of sexual misconduct? Rumors Trump will drop out. Yeah, I suppose there would be. So, you know what's interesting is who exactly would replace Trump? Would it be Pence? And if it's Pence, then who's the vice president? Can they pick anybody they want? Interesting. So here's my take on Trump at this point. He probably could have survived having the tape come out. He probably could have survived having several women make claims, the types of the claims that they're making right now. But there isn't really any chance he's going to survive both of them. So the fact that he's recorded both on some Howard Stern stuff and on the Access Hollywood thing. Those two things, along with this steady parade of people who are were fairly believable, pretty much is unbeatable. So now that of course assumes that nothing changes between now and then. Now, one of the things that could change is there could be some gigantic piece of new information about Clinton. But unless there's a really big change, I don't think there's much Trump can do at this point. So I know that some of you are going to say, but what about the Master Persuader projections? What about my predictions? Are they wrong? Well, that's in the sense of guessing who's going to be president. They would be wrong if it turns out that Trump doesn't win. But remember the context of the Master Persuader hypothesis. It was the idea that reality is subjective and that we all have a different little movie running in our heads. For example, you might have a movie in your head that you've evolved over millions of years to what you are. Whereas somebody standing right next to you could have a movie in their head that God made every person and gave them a soul, an entirely different interpretation of reality. But you could both survive. And that's really all you need to do. So we all have little different movies playing in our heads. And the Master Persuader hypothesis was the idea that I could come up with a movie that would be a little more predictive or even, ideally a lot more predictive, than the standard way of seeing the world. And I would say the standard way of seeing the world is that people are 90% rational and 10% irrational, meaning that they look at facts and policies and they care if people are telling the truth and all that. I wanted to compare that to the master persuader hypothesis that says that somebody with the right skill set can just shape reality so that people will ignore facts and policies and all that, and that would be a more predictive filter on the world. So I would say at this point that there's a solid basis for claiming that it's a better filter than the idea that people are rational 90% of the time. The master persuader filter assumes the opposite, that people are irrational 90% of the time, and 10% of the time when there's no emotion involved, then they can be a little bit rational, about minor trivial things. So, so if you were to look at it through that lens, I would say the master persuader hypothesis was probably better than the alternative, because it did predict that Trump would get this far. Now, it also predicted that he would win, and maybe he still will. But I would say at this point something really big has to happen. It would have to happen soon, and there might be something. You never know. So there's nothing Trump could do? Well, there might be, but it would take something so bad about Clinton. And, could it be something better, health, or, something we haven't heard. See, the difference between the accusations against Clinton and the accusations against Trump is that most of the Clinton stuff is either just a lot of smoke, but you can't quite find the fire. It's there, but, the emails are missing, or the emails we have are really someone else talking, or it's something her husband did, and, maybe she was just doing her job when she, defended him. So, all of her stuff is sort of glancing blows. But Trump, with that Access Hollywood recording, plus some of the Howard Stern stuff, plus all the women coming forward, that sort of removes all doubt. So it's much more visual and current kind of emotional tug on people. It would be hard to top that for emotional content. The tape killed him. No, you can't say the tape killed him. That was the biggest factor, yes. But all the other factors have to be in place at the same time. And what the tape allowed is for these women apparently to feel safe coming forward. So had there been no tape, there probably would have been no women coming forward. Well, the place we're at now, with that Access Hollywood tape really changing everything, I would say, I don't think anybody could have predicted that, right? That was just so far out of left field. I think everybody could have predicted that there were things in Trump's past that he wishes people didn't know. But most people have a reasonable expectation that nobody can find out, because it's things that happened with no witnesses, as Trump is saying now. So the odds of actually having that kind of thing caught on tape, and then somebody saved it, and they were able to find it later, that was pretty bad luck. Now, he brought it on himself, right? So it's not bad luck in the sense that, there's nothing to it. It's just bad luck that he got caught. So if you compare that to, and here again, I have to, of course, be careful not to say that I'm, siding with the molester here. But the bad luck, just strictly in terms of persuasion and getting elected or not putting any judgment on anything. And I wasn't in the room when any of this happened. But who saw this coming? I don't think this was the sort of thing you could say, well, things will be going swimmingly and people will care about policies and facts, and then this will happen. You don't think any of this stuff is a big deal? It only has to be a big deal to women. And it only has to be a big deal to, 2/3 of them or something. And, then peel off 10% of the men who are just, offended by the whole thing. I'm so behind the news curve. No, I won't be surprised if, some of the women are debunked, but we'll never really know which ones are the honest ones and which aren't. And I don't think it matters at this point because they passed the sniff test. They are believable. Sorry, folks. If I'm being honest, they are believable. Radical new proposal, debate. I don't know. Maybe some of you haven't caught the news this afternoon. Did you catch the more graphic descriptions of the alleged incidents? If you haven't seen one or more, I think I watched 2 or 3 of them today, describing in detail what they say happened. I'll say alleged. If you haven't seen that, you don't know how bad this is. It's just a scab. My prediction as of now is if nothing changes, Clinton will win. And it would have to be something really big to change it. Sacrifice move, putting Pence in the top spot. I just don't know it's possible. It might be possible. It would be an interesting. The more I think about it, the more clever that is, because Trump could always claim victory because he's preventing Clinton from getting another term. Because Pence would probably win, or would he? I don't know. Do you think Pence could win? How many say no, Pence? Yeah, no. 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 Yes. Yeah, so most of you think he wouldn't. He just has to have the personality, and he's a little bit more conservative. I have to say that Pence was a better public speaker than I was expecting. Of the 4 people, if you're looking at the vice president and the presidential candidates, I would say Pence is actually the smoothest, most collected speaker. Independent of what you think of his political opinions, just his ability to deliver a line and make it friendly and convincing and smart enough without being too smart. Former radio host, that makes sense. Yeah, the radio background makes perfect sense. So yeah, if this latest tape hadn't come out, I think it was Trump's to lose, and I think he could have won in a landslide. But unless there's something big going to happen the next day, next few days, it's not looking good. Polling was up for Trump. Yeah. It's perfectly possible, but I would say unlikely, that people will just double down and say, I don't want this stuff to, deny me the president that I wanted. Yeah, I don't think the conversation is about words anymore. So when I talked about the tape being a problem, I've also said that the words of the tape are not a problem. If the only thing you had been exposed to is just the tape, and you hadn't heard the women tell their stories. But when you add the tape with the women telling the stories, that's pretty much a death grip. It's about what voters are frightened of the most. Yeah, but I would argue that that's what women are frightened about. And really all it takes is to have a crushing majority of women. Because, there's automatically going to be something close to even split with men, just because it's, hey, Democrats and hey, Republicans. And, the men have sort of a less of a reason to rally around somebody for anything other than policy this time. Whereas the women have something else to gain. So it really is up to women to decide how much they care about this latest stuff. And I'm pretty sure they're going to care a lot. That's not much time for those released emails to do any damage if it's only a week before the actual election. Yeah, let's wait for a few more polls before we can say, anybody's support is up or down. I think it is true that a majority of the people just might not care about any of this groping stuff. But if, 10% of the public cares enough to change their votes, that's enough for, a decisive victory. And it's hard for me to imagine that you can't get at least 1 out of 10 people to change their vote based on this stuff. Too many lies exposed. Yeah, like I blogged, in this sort of situation, without saying anything about any specific allegations, you can expect that half of everything you hear is just wrong. Because that's just sort of a rule of thumb. It's the famous person's rule of thumb. Half of what you see in the press is just, factually wrong or out of context. But that would still leave enough things that are right that Trump can't explain them all the way at this point. I mean, he's good, but it would take something monumental like Clinton, actually just... I think Clinton could win from a hospital bed at this point, and maybe she will. Is this a bad dream? Well, we're all in our own movie. Yeah, is it a coincidence that I got punched in the nose and I no longer imagine that Trump can win this unless something big happens. Again, you always have to add that asterisk. And remember, people are going to say, "Hey, you're pivoting and you're weaseling out of your your prediction." But the larger question is whether the master persuader filter could give you an entirely different way to understand your world and predict what will happen next better than whatever model you were using before. How did 930 people decide that this was something to do on a Friday? Speak of the subjective fact of subjectivity. Nobody punched me. For my honesty, you're welcome. You think this is a test? Am I sad now? Well, you know, let me be honest with you. Being right would have been very cool. But it also would have saddled me with the responsibility for whatever a President Trump did. You know, people would say, "Damn it, Adams, you know, you were part of the problem. You were part of the reason, however small, that he got elected." And then I'd probably just get killed the first time he did some damn thing in office. So I'm personally probably a lot safer. But the estate tax thing really does bother me. What I'm hoping is that I'll stay alive so long that the laws will change 3 or 4 times before I check out. The avatar was confused. Did you only think a 2% chance of all this happening? Now, you know, nobody can predict, you know, the meteor. You know, what were the odds that somebody had an actual audio recording of him confessing something that would have, you know, so far 7 different witnesses that could corroborate it, and was exactly the worst thing that you could, you know, have happen if you're running against potentially the first woman to become president of the United States? Could that have been any worse luck? Now, you have to say, my girlfriend is a goddess, you're right. I have to say that Trump has been very lucky up to this point. So it's almost like the universe, I don't believe this, but it feels like the universe is somehow distributing luck to everybody in equal amounts. And Trump got a whole bunch of luck early, but the universe had to smooth it out and, you know, return to the mean. Trump is naming the elephant now. I won't speak for Christina. She can give her opinion. I think my wet dog is probably where she shouldn't be. Trump has a security video that proves that girl is lying. Well, like I said, I just discount half of everything I hear. But there's still plenty left over once you've discounted half. Yeah, I think I read that story about Cialdini. I won't speak for Christina. Is there any chance he pulls it off? Yeah, there's a chance. See, the trouble with this rumor is that it fits what you imagine. So until it happened, I didn't imagine it. But as soon as you hear this, it's easy to imagine, and then especially when the women describe it in great details. And because he himself is such a visual character, it's easy to imagine things with him in it because we're so able to imagine him. He's so vivid in our minds. So when people were talking, when Clinton was making her case about, let's say, Trump's policies or what he might do in the future, it was hard to put a visual on those things because they're kind of conceptual. He might have bad judgment. He might have a bad temperament. You know, the temperament, judgment, those things don't have any visual. But then along comes this Access Hollywood tape. And then the women coming out and describing in great detail the situation they were in, what room they were in, you know, what both of them were wearing, you know, what was the context, you know, who touched who, where, what was said. It's just insanely visual persuasion. So now, when you think of Trump, you're just reminded of these things. And because of his age, you have a sort of a bad reaction to it. I mean, a worse reaction than you would, you know, ordinarily, and that would have been bad enough. Yeah, I'll do what I can to avoid taxes. Have I ever been falsely accused? I've been falsely accused of everything you can imagine. I think every category. What would you advise Trump to do now? It depends if he knows there's something coming. That would be the big variable, right? So if there's something big coming, whoever has it probably would have told him by now, you know, or at least got his permission or something. So he knows more than we do about what's down the road. Did somebody say so anyone can make a false claim? You should learn not to start sentences with the word so when you're on Periscope with me. Somebody will explain that to you. Speaking engagements, I still have none on the books. Was I surprised by debate performance? Not really, because I thought it would be better. And people had been, you know, giving him advice for a few weeks about specifically where he should be better. And so it's not a surprise that he raised his game. Is it possible the accused or the accusers were coached by Godzilla? Only in the, you know, anything's possible sense, but I would say very unlikely. Because I just can't imagine him getting into the gutter like that. How can we fix our media? This is a huge issue. Well, yeah, the media may have fixed itself. You know, once it loses its credibility, it's kind of hard to keep the audience. Stop blaming the media. Well, you know, there still is this hidden, shy Trump vote that could still happen. You know, we don't know how big it is. Because I can imagine a lot of people saying, you know, just saying that they're switching their vote from Trump or they're moving to Gary Johnson because, as you know, the big advantage of being an endorser of Gary Johnson is that Gary Johnson only touches himself. and then only with permission. Trump News Network. I don't see Trump starting a news network. How does one find truth in this world? I think we have a subjective reality, so you got to make your own truth. I remember in high school, I grew up in a very small town, so we had about 40 people in my graduating class. So there were a total of 20 boys my age for the boys basketball team. That could be that plus a few other classes were the total pool of boys. So our tallest guy was like 5'11", I think, one year. He was our center. He was 5'11". But one day, he wasn't there. And so the next best leaper was, I think, around 5'6", maybe, or shorter, maybe 5'4". But he could just leap like crazy. So we would have our 5'4" or whatever he was, 5'6" guy jump center against their 6'4" guy. And our guy would win more than half the time, because if they've never seen him jump, they walk up next to him and he only comes up to their, up to their chest. And so the 6'4" guy doesn't jump. He doesn't leave his feet. And the 5'6" guy could actually dunk. So he would just zoom up past the other guy. So that said, there could always be an effect of lulling the other side into not having a turnout, because the polls are likely to be overwhelming for Clinton by the last couple of days. So I could see her people not turning out, and then suddenly a bunch of shy Trump supporters that were hiding in the woodshed swipe left. What's that do? Am I as depressed? Well, the floating hearts means people are liking me right now. So if you tap on your screen, then you'll be sending some hearts too. You tap in that same place. I don't think it matters that much that a lot of these accusers have connections to the Clinton Foundation or to Clinton, because if it's true that what these women are saying is true, if it's true that what they're saying is true, then you have to assume that there are more. So however more there are would give you a better sense of what are the odds that any one of them might, the ones that are likely to come forward, are pro-Clinton in some way or have a pro-Clinton connection. A witness came out against Leeds. I'm not sure any of it's going to help. The thing is, we're never really going to know if the witness was lying or the woman was lying. What matters is how many there are, and there are now enough of them that people are just going to say, well, if one or two, maybe he didn't do it. But once you start getting to 7 or more, it's hard to buy into that. Do I like Mike Cernovich? Yes, I do. I grew up in the Catskills. True enough. Do I like myself? Usually. Yeah, Christine and I talk politics sometimes. Am I a Mohican? I might be. Oh, thanks for saying that about my book. All right. I think I'm getting boring now. So you guys can go back to your Friday night. And I'm going to go finish drying off my dog. And I really don't have much else to say. This is like ASMR. I have to admit that I like reading your comments, though, if I can. Let's watch your face. All right. You guys have a great weekend. I'll probably see you tomorrow.